Well, hey there, everybody. It's Chris from the Rate the Record podcast, and oh my goodness, it's that time of the week again where new music happens, and then I listen to it and I tell you what I think about it. It's the new music review, obviously. 3 new tracks. Let's just check them out now. Time for me to exit stage left. To you, it looks like the right, but to me, I'm actually going left. So, isn't it weird how cameras work? Or life? I don't think it's just cameras. So first up on the list, we have Joan Marie Larkin, aka Joan Jett, who's been on the music scene since 1975. She's been playing with bands like the Runaways, her own solo work, and of course Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And that latter name just dropped a brand new EP called Mindsets, and so I'm looking at the very first track released from it called If You're Blue. So if you know anything about Joan Jett, then you know exactly what her sound is and what she kind of got famous for. So with a song like this, she really stuck to her roots for this one. It's just a straightforward pop punk rock style of track, but not pop punk in the way of like what you think of from the 90s and 2000s. Like this was like 80s pop punk, if that even what it was called back then, but it's very poppy, rock, punk, whatever you want to call it. It sounds like it came from that time. I'm usually good at this, I swear. So keep in mind at this point in time, Joan Jett is 64 years old, or at least I think she's 64 or turning 64 this year. Regardless, she's in her 60s. And I think her age is actually still suiting this style really well, considering how much it's aged. I feel like she's grown into this sound just as well as she entered it. It's a fun and simple little uplifting track, and it definitely catches the spirit of her early albums pretty well here, so there's something to enjoy if you like her earlier work. Overall, the track is fine, but I don't personally think it's anything too exciting. It's cool that she can still pull off this sound and style at her age, but unfortunately this one just isn't doing too much for me. Next up on the list, we have Wide Mouth Mason, the blues rock band out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and they're set to release their brand new album, the first since 2019 actually, and the new album's going to be called Late Night Walking, and the very first taste they've given us from this album is their brand new track, You Pushed Me. There's some cool work on the slide guitar to kick off the track, and it does continue throughout the track as well. It pretty much drives the entire thing. These cool little bluesy riffs to just pick up the energy and have fun with. This has a very bare bones style to it too. Very simple guitar, quiet bass, straightforward percussive drums. Like this is all matched with the vocals obviously, and this really sounds like a bluesy version of the Black Keys. And I know the Black Keys can sound awfully bluesy as well. This isn't a bad thing, by the way, when I say bluesy, but this really sounds like the Black Keys. Right down to like vocal tone and inflection and everything. Like, I don't know, it feels like it's right there. I will say though that this track kind of lacks any real life to it. I do like what it gives you in that it doesn't go overboard with it, but there's not a lot backing up this track. I mean, sonically it's fairly flat, the substance in this one is kind of minimal, and the hook just isn't all that great, so I don't know what I'm supposed to be getting out of this one right now if I'm not already like a big fan of the band. Overall, this one fell flat for me. Maybe this is just a small taste of bigger things to come, because I will say that I do like Wide Mouth Mason's older albums, and they had some great singles in the 90s. So I'd be curious to see where this new album would fall on like any sort of enjoyability scale. Is enjoyability a word? I don't care. You know what I mean. That's the important part here. And finally on the list, we have punk rock act Rancid from Berkeley, California, who's been around since 1991, and they just dropped a brand new album back on June 2nd, and I'm taking a look at the title track of this project called Tomorrow Never Comes. So I mentioned punk in the first track, but as compared to that one, I love the energy that this one brings, like the pure punk energy. Rancid doesn't seem to have lost it at all, so I like what I'm hearing here. The production is pretty clean, but I love that they do indeed bring this grit to the sound, especially in the vocals too, because I know they got like raspy vocals when they do their songs even in the past. I wasn't a huge Rancid fan growing up, but I'm aware of what they sound like, and they brought it into this track, and I think it's kind of neat. As to be expected too, nothing over the top happens here. It's still heavy, it's fast, it's aggressive, it's got some guitar solos in it. It's a lot of fun, I will say that much. And I think with a 2.5 minute runtime, it's perfect at delivering what it needs to get out. It's not dragging too long or anything like that. It doesn't have any unnecessary verses, it doesn't have any unnecessary choruses. and it sounds pretty decent doing it, so I don't really have a lot of complaints for this one. Overall, this is a yes, I do indeed dig this track. I wouldn't keep going back to this one in particular, but I did enjoy my time with it, and who knows, I might even check out the album too. There you go, 3 albums out the door super quickly. I had to get this one done a little faster than I usually do, but anyways, thank you very much for tuning in and checking out these songs with me. Make sure you let me know what you thought of them down in the comments below. I'm always very curious. You hear my opinions, I want to hear yours. That's all kind of what the point of this is, aside from my reviews, which may mean nothing to you. Anyways, tell me what you think. I am curious. And don't forget to check out ratetherecord.ca, because over there you can find all of our streaming links for our podcast. You can find all of our social media links. You can request albums for the show. We do album giveaways on the podcast as well. You can join the RTR Club if you like us enough to financially support us. We have merchandise now. As you can see, I'm currently wearing the Rate the Record podcast shirt. We have a few different things and hopefully more down the road. But regardless, all of that found at ratetherecord.ca, so make sure you're checking that out. And also in the week that I'm releasing this, there's still no new podcast yet. The podcast is coming back next week with episode 79, and if you want to know what that episode is before it actually drops, make sure you're following our Instagram or Facebook, because then we do the Friday reveals of what Monday's episode is going to be. So if you want to know, then you can check it out on Friday. But yeah, Savannah's also doing an NMR as well, so make sure you look into that, because, you know, just more content to watch, more new music to check out, and we want you to be a part of that. So it's not just my songs, it's hers too. So there's 6 new songs for you to check out this week, so make sure you're clicking over there and watching that too. And that's all I have in fear of rambling way too much. So once again, thank you very much for checking this out, hanging out, and we'll see you again for a brand new season of the podcast this Monday. Take care, friends.